Tonight's story is called I Never Knew That Our Next Door Neighbors Were Aliens from Outer Space. Now, this story happened a long, long time ago, and it's absolutely true. I lived in a road in another village where there were some quite nice houses. There weren't many houses, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 houses in the road, not many. The house across the road from us, and it wasn't a road, it was just a little cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sac's a road, a short road with where you can't get out at one end. It just goes up to the end of the road and that's it. You can't get out. So I lived in a short cul-de-sac, and on the other side of the road, or on the other side of the cul-de-sac, was quite a large house. Anyway, the family who lived there put it up for sale because they were going to go and live somewhere else. The buyer was a foreign embassy from a country I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to cast any dispersions. Let's just say it's one of those countries which is often regarded by some places as an axis of evil, possibly the worst of the lot. Anyway, the house was bought by the embassy or the consulate, I don't know which, I suppose the embassy of that particular country, and I suppose it was bought so their dignitaries could live in it. Now, what was quite interesting, before anyone moved into the home, they decided to carry out some renovation works. And I'm sure they got some permission from the local commune to get the work done, planning permission as it's known. But I would say they must have done a lot more than was planned because there were bulldozers and digging machines there for literally best part of a year and a half. It was a very long period of digging, and the digging machines were digging down into the earth. Of course, we couldn't really see anything because there was a high hedge around the house, and they were digging mostly on the inside of the house. Now, nobody really knew what they were digging for. We guessed maybe they were putting in a swimming pool inside the house, under the basement or somewhere like that. I don't know. We didn't know. But they kept digging and digging and digging. And outside the house, they had these skips. And almost every day, 1 or 2 skips would be filled with soil, stones, rubble, bricks, concrete, I don't know what it was. They'd be filled and taken away. And this went on for a long, long period, a year and a half. And I could not believe how much was coming out from the inside of the house. I'm going to get to the flying saucer bit. You relax. Anyway, this digging just went on and on and on and on and on for months and months. I know when you dig the space for a swimming pool, there's a lot of stuff comes out of the ground which seems to be more than the space of a swimming pool. But I would say it looked like it was 20 times the space of a swimming pool that came out. Maybe 30 times, maybe more. And still nobody was living there, and still the works were carrying on. Anyway, one night it was very dark and it was very foggy. And I'd come home and I'd been out with some friends having a nice drink and I was a bit happy when I heard a strange noise. The noise was like this. And because it was foggy, I couldn't see much, but I looked up and I could see it looked like the stars in the sky were going round and round and round, like that in a circle. And they were flashing. I thought, that's strange, the stars are flashing. And then the stars seemed to come down almost like they're on a giant saucer. And they landed, looked to me, in the garden of this house. Now, I couldn't see anything because there was a high fence and a high hedge, and you couldn't see into the garden of the house, but it definitely looked like a flying saucer might have landed in the garden, but I didn't know for sure. Anyway, I was a bit tired and didn't have all my senses about me, so I just thought I'd go to bed and discuss it the next day. Well, the next day I woke up and kind of forgot about it, and I thought, okay, it must have been I was too tired, I must have imagined it. Maybe there was no flying saucer. I mean, flying saucers can't be landing in somebody's garden, can they? So I sort of forgot about it, but then I started to notice a very strange noise. And the noise was coming from the house, and it sounded like this rum dum 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 rum dum dum dum. And this noise went on not only for days, but weeks and weeks. And every time I'd pass the garden, I could hear this noise. You couldn't really hear it if you were in your house, but if you were next to the hedge, you could hear it. I thought it's really, really strange. Meanwhile, all the workmen were going in and out of the house, still emptying out the soil or the bricks from where they were building the swimming pool, which must be under the house somewhere. And it was very interesting, but there was nobody living there. It was an empty house. Well, one day I noticed it was in the evening and it was late on a Friday night, and I noticed the workmen had forgotten to lock the gate, because around the works they'd put this very, very high fence, which was usually padlocked shut. But they'd gone home and the gate was slightly ajar. Ajar means slightly open. So I noticed the gate was slightly ajar, and I could still hear, when I was close to the hedge, this noise, rum dum dum, rum dum dum, rum dum dum. And I wondered what it was. Now, at the time, I had a little boy, your brother, in fact, whose name was Jeremy. Well, still is Jeremy, actually.
I have another brother.
Yes, but this was Jeremy. So I said to Jeremy, have you heard this strange noise? It sounds very, very much like something from outer space, more like aliens or something. He said, and I said, they left the gate open. I wondered if we should go and have a look. And he said, yes, let's go and have a look. Well, I couldn't say no now. So Jeremy and me, we gingerly, on our tiptoes, went through the gate, trying not to make any noise. And now we got into the house. The house was open, because of course they're building it. And all the rooms were literally empty. There was nothing in the kitchen, nothing in the sitting room, nothing anywhere you could see in the reception rooms or the bedrooms. It was just bare walls and floors. So clearly they were still doing the work. But I thought that was rather strange that these rooms weren't finished after working on it for a year and a half. Well, what puzzled us a little bit was we couldn't see any stairs going down, because we thought they were building a swimming pool downstairs under the house, but we couldn't find any stairs. And then Jeremy noticed a little lift with two buttons, one for up and one for down. He said, oh, maybe that's the way to get to the swimming pool underneath the house. So we pressed the button for up, and the lift came up and the doors opened. Like the doors were open. Okay, I said, let's go in and see where this lift goes. So we went in and pressed the down button. There was only one button, which seemed a little bit strange, because you'd think there'd be lots of buttons in a lift, but there's only one which was down, and the lift started to go down. Now, what puzzled me a lot was it went down and down and down and down and down. And I was looking at my watch thinking, this is taking a long time to go down for only one floor for a swimming pool. It shouldn't take so long, but it kept going down, 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 down. And I started to wonder, how far down have we gone? We must have gone a very long way. It was quite puzzling as to why it was taking so long. Because, if you go down in the lift just one floor, it's usually close the doors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, stop, doors open. Not long at all. But here, it was much more than that. I could have probably counted to 100, before the lift finally seemed to come to a stop. And then the doors opened. Oh, by the way, just to say, when we got to the bottom, this noise was much, much louder than before. It wasn't rum-dum-dum, because we were much closer to the noise. Now the noise was like this. Rum-dum-dum, rum-dum-dum. Really noise. I said it too loud there, but it was really noisy and almost deafening. And the lift doors opened, and Jeremy and I could not believe our eyes. You won't believe what we saw. Inside the basement, or whatever we were in, this room at the bottom of the house, it was a room full of switches and dials and buttons and flashing lights, and it was like a giant computer and reels of tape spinning around. It was like being inside a giant computer with all sorts of electronic things, switches, buttons. It was amazing. We looked around, and then we noticed that there were some strange-looking creatures watching the screens and pressing the buttons and twiddling the dials. They hadn't seen us because it was so noisy with this huge noise. Rum-dum-dum, rum-dum. They couldn't see us because they... Well, let me tell you what they look like. You tell me if you think they're aliens. They had glass helmets over their heads. They had very, very large heads with large eyes, and the skin was green of the face and head. The eyes were huge, and they had 2 antennas sticking up on the top. What is it?
Alien.
Aliens, yes, I think it might be. Maybe the aliens came out of that flying saucer we saw.
Maybe it was the magic house.
Anyway.
Maybe the house turned into a flying saucer.
And do you know what? I think you might have found the answer. Well, let me tell you what happened anyway, and then you tell me what you think. But actually, turning the house into a flying saucer might be exactly what was going on. Now you mention it, I never thought of that. Jeremy and I stood there, dumbfounded, gobsmacked. We had never seen anything like this in our life. And when we saw these aliens, which hadn't seen us, by the way, they were all twiddling the dials and touching the buttons and paying attention to the screens, and they couldn't hear us because of all the noise. Well, we were quite scared. I mean...
One down, down, one down, down.
Yeah, that was the noise. In fact, it was absolutely terrifying. It was frightening. It was so scary. We were petrified. We could hardly move. The horror of what we saw, of these weird aliens from outer space.
Good aliens or bad aliens?
Well, we don't know yet. Let me finish the story and we'll see if we find out. We looked around, petrified, terrified, scared to death, so frightened.
And was there?
We were so frightened we didn't dare move. And then, just then, one of the aliens turned round quite a long way away. It was on the far side of the room. It was quite a really, really big room with all these lights. Turned around and looked straight at us. He saw us. You can imagine how scared we were. So it was almost like at the end of the garden from here. So quite a long way away. And then he lifted one of his arms, one of his green arms.
Why?
Why did he lift one of his green arms? I'll just tell you what happened. I don't know why. Not in his head. I can't tell you what he was thinking. He lifted one of his green arms and one of his long, he only had 3 fingers, long bony fingers, which are much longer than our fingers, and pointed at us like that and said, "Ark, ark, 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 ark." Now, we don't know what that means, but I guess it means, "Look out, everybody, there's some human beings arrived." Well, as he said this and pointed at us going, "Ark, ark, ark," he was pointing directly at us and looking at us. The other aliens in the room all started to turn around one after the other, and they all started pointing their fingers, their long bony fingers, They only had 3 fingers, and they're very, very long, much longer than our fingers, maybe twice, if not 3 times as big. And like the rest of their body, their hands and their arms were completely green.
They have green boots. Those have boots, green boots.
Funny enough, they were green boots as well. In fact, the whole body was green.
But also have green boots.
Yeah, all of that. Basically, they were green aliens, but we didn't know it was aliens at the time. But now you've told me it could be they could have been building a flying saucer in the house.
The big lovely eyes.
Yeah, they had really large eyes, much bigger than your eyes or my eyes. The eyes took up maybe half the face. Anyway, all these aliens were now looking at us and pointing at us.
But they don't have ears.
I didn't notice any ears, no. So they had no ears.
No ears. They have no ears. But their antennas could be their ears.
The antenna could be ears, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe. So they all had 2 antennas on their head, which looked like radio antennas. Anyway, now we had all the aliens in the room looking at us, and they were all one by one pointing at us, going, ark, ark, ark.
What?
Ark, ark, ark. So we were scared to death, petrified, terrified, so frightened. I said to Jeremy, Jeremy, quick, we must go, we must run. So we pressed the button on the lift to go up, but it wasn't moving. Boom, boom, boom. We started pounding the up button, and nothing was happening. And then the aliens were starting to come towards us. It was very scary. And suddenly the doors shut just in time before the aliens got to us, and the lift started to go up. And we got back into the sitting room, which was empty, as I told you, nothing but bare walls and bare floor. And we ran out of the sitting room, ran out into the garden, ran around the house to the front of the house where the gap in the gate was, and we ran out of the house. Behind us, we slammed the gate shut, the fence shut, which was keeping people out. Slammed it shut so no one else could go in. Ran into our house and jumped under the bed. No, under the sheets of the bed, so nobody would find. So if the aliens came, they wouldn't find us. But they didn't come. Now, I was so frightened of what I'd just seen, I thought it could be this strange embassy building some rocket launch pad, or maybe it was aliens building a flying saucer or turning the house into a flying saucer, and maybe they were about to invade the planet. And of course, if they do that, they're going to start with the neighbours before they go to the rest of the village, and then the rest of the area, and then the rest of the country, and then all the countries of the planet. So I thought, don't know where they're going to start if they do invade us, but maybe they'll start next door where we live, so we had better go away. So what we did, we moved house. And this is how you and I, Aidan, came to live in this lovely house where we are. It's not so far from the village where all this happened, but at least if the aliens come, we might have some warning before they get to us. Now, what do you think I saw? By the way, I don't know if it was aliens, and I don't even know for sure that what I saw in the sky coming down to land in the garden was a flying saucer. It looked like a flying saucer, but maybe it was...
Maybe the house turned into a flying saucer.
Well, this is the question.
But when they were in the lift, I started quickly turn into a house again.
That's right. When we got up to the ground floor, it was a house again, as opposed to deep down below, where it looked like the inside of a flying saucer.
Yes, but they were that.
No. Do you think I should go back and check it out and see if it's still there? Now, this was all 20, 30 years ago. It's a long, long time ago. Well, maybe 10 years ago or 11 years ago. It was a long time ago. Perhaps we one day, it's about 13 years, 14, 15 years ago now, one day we'll go back, you and me, and we'll check out the house and see what it's like. And if possible, we can go down and live together. Will you go with me?
No, I don't want to go. It's too scary, the aliens will be there.
Yeah, actually, I think I'm too scared too. I don't want to go.
No.
Should we look at it from outside?
No.
Is it too scary to go even outside? Yeah, I think so. We better not go. We'll stay where we are, shall we? In our house where it's very safe.
But when we go to somebody's house, but not to that scary house where I live, and turned into a fly. So there we don't go that.
No, we won't go to that house where they may be turning the house into a flying saucer.
Yeah.
Maybe the house has turned into a flying saucer. It's taken off and gone into space already. We don't know.
But when it lands and we went quick and take the lift, it turned into a house. It turned to the same house again. And then the angel was not there again. But then the angel disappeared and went into the. Then the angel was disappeared. Then the angel was gone. Do not in that house, that scary house. But it was back in the house again.
Did you like the story?
Yes.
All right. And now you know what to do, don't you? What have you got to do?
Mm-hmm.
What comes next?
To bed.
Yes, you get into bed.
Look, Daddy. A sheep and a robot.
Oh, wow, you made a robot. That looks good. Now you lie down.
That's his leg and that's his
Made
tummy.
the robot with the bricks.
And that's his head. And that's his arm. That's his other arm. Look, Daddy.
I can see. It looks like a robot to me. Now you lie down and stop playing with the bricks. Okay, there's a good boy. Cover yourself. Ready to go to sleep? Good night, little boy. Shall I see you later?
What to play?
At what time is it now? It's 2:20 in the afternoon. So if we sleep for an hour and a half, let's say you fall asleep at 2:30, that makes 3:30, 4 o'clock. We should wake you up at 4 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to set an alarm for 4 o'clock and then I'll wake you up, all right? Sleep now. Good night.
Yes.